It was exhausting, but it's well worth it. And Reddington being calm enough now. Are you calm enough now? Are you enjoying planting peppers? I think you are. Whoa, so today is June 1st, 2022. Fortunately, it seems that my tarp right there is holding. It wasn't a lot of heavy snow. Heavy enough, but not a lot of it. And fortunately, that didn't create enough weight to destroy it. That way the peonies under it are dry, because it's gonna be raining. Right now we're at close to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 0 degrees Celsius. And so the snow is not melting. It is falling off because it's raining. You might not be able to see this in the video. I would have gone outside and recorded this, but the reality is I'm getting over these very annoying allergy cough, and getting wet in the cold, I don't think that's gonna help. So from the living room, where we have a bit of a jungle, as you can see, plants are waiting, and hopefully this upcoming weekend, in a few days, it'll be warm enough that everything can go outside. Might still be a little cool at night, but our peppers and tomatoes and eggplants, plus the dahlias, need to be transplanted outside and planted. The dahlias need to be planted, but this is crazy. You know, June 1st, and I've heard that there's been frosty nights all the way to July. Sometimes I really hope that's not one of those years. And even though the transplanting is gonna be late by about 8 days, I hope our tomatoes make it, because it's always a struggle every year. And so hopefully it's gonna be so warm that our first frost is gonna be late in the season, like the latest it can possibly be, and that way maybe we can get a good tomato crop. Next year we're gonna try some dwarf varieties. Maybe they'll be able to fruit quicker. We'll see. All right, it's June 2nd. The snow melted yesterday, so right now it's just very wet and cool, unless you're under the sun. So the plants here seem to be doing fine. Garlic looks fine. It seems we lost some of the garlic. It could have been because the ice created like a plug, so it was always kind of damp, and maybe they got rotten. So I guess we'll just stick with the varieties that we know right now, which is Music, Italian Hill, Ivory Giant, and I think there's another one of the new ones we got. I'm not sure. I think this one might be one of the new ones. Yeah, or that could be Ragatuso actually. So no new ones survived. The shallots are doing great. The honeyberries are doing great. It seems that they're stretching a little more, so they might produce more flowers and thus more berries. Woo! And then we have our raspberries are doing great, and we need to cut those old stems. We left them because, aside of being a home for the bugs in the winter, we thought, at least with this one, that the new shoots will grow from the old wood. Not the case, so we'll just cut them down. And then we do have some weeding to do before the peppers come out. Today I need to start bringing them out in their tray to start hardening them off. If you want to know how that's done, it's the first day you take them out for an hour, the next day, the day after that 2 hours, the day after 4 hours, then 6 hours, 8 hours, a whole day. So it's gonna take a whole week, and that's about the time we need to transplant these guys, because the temperatures at night are gonna be warmer. So at least in the lower 50s, upper 40s, the peppers will be fine on that temperature. The tomatoes, not so much, but that's gonna be the last thing we're gonna plant. So this weekend, if the weather permits, I'm gonna start transplanting, or actually planting, the dahlia tubers. so that I have enough free time, and then we can do this in a day and a half the most. It would just take a couple of hours, but it has to be after work. And the tomatoes, those I'm in charge, so it doesn't matter when I do it, as long as it's early so I can water. Ideally, you don't want to water them at night, and it's going to be raining, so we'll see about the tomatoes and the eggplants, but those will be at the end because they're so susceptible and sensitive to getting damage out of the cold temperature, and they're seedlings, so we don't want that. So hopefully the days will be warm enough that even if it is a little cool at night, it'll be fine. So right now, let's check on the cold loving plants, because they want sun, but there's a storm coming, at some point today. So I do need to amend my soil for the dahlia tubers. All of these squared pots, the ones in there, all of those are for dahlias. So that way I know how many pots I have and how many dahlia tubers I have. Then I need to check if I need more. I always have extra pots because I plant other things. I usually like to compare how plants grow in containers and in the ground different, so that you guys can get encouraged to grow things, because some of you don't have a garden, maybe a balcony or even indoors. So with that being said, if we showed you that we're successful in a container, then you might be encouraged and get some plants yourself. So I'm gonna move these guys to the sun, and then I guess remove the tarp and then put it back up if the storm comes. Whew. So the peonies seem to be doing well. I see buds around there. The phlox is fine. The German status is fine. The puppies are doing good, and the seedlings seem to be doing fine too. So I think I'm gonna be doing that. We have some green in here. This is where the puppies are, the perennial puppies. So let's put that in the sun somewhere here. We'll get more sun. As soon as the sun starts getting above us. The yarrow, it's also growing. This is a double pearl yarrow, and we're gonna put that in the sun too because it likes it. And let's see how the phlox is doing. So only having success with the cherry caramel this year, so I think I'm gonna get new seed for the creme brulee. And although I'm not very excited about getting the dulce de leche, I think I'm gonna get it just for the sake of it, having the 3 colors, and see how it goes. So for the moment, I'm gonna put them here. Maybe getting partial shade. When the sun gets up, they'll get the sun, but I don't want them burning because since they like shade. Phlox is still a very new, iffy plant for me because sometimes I don't do it right. All right. I'm gonna remove this tarp, put away the frost blanket. We'll actually have it ready for the peppers, but I'm not gonna need it for these flowers anymore, so let's get to it. So the tarp is ready here, just in case I have to run out and cover plants so that they don't get damaged with heavy rain or hail. And I'm gonna start moving, I guess, the plants more centered so they get more sun. There's the strawberries. These are some Iceland puppies that just overwintered 2 seasons and then they came back. I'm gonna put the German status there, the phlox in there, partial shade. And then I wonder how the amaranth is doing, because I don't know if, I mean, it's supposed to come back or be soft seed, but I don't, it looks good. Great. Yeah, I'm gonna have to transplant this guy soon. I'm gonna put them here, leave it uncovered so that it vents a little more than just the little holes that are there. I'm gonna move the peonies more over here to get more light from the sun, because I just learned that peonies like to have sun all day, even though it's very intense here. But hey, if they're gonna be all out in the field at some point, they're gonna get sun all day. we're doing that. One more. Remove the lavender over here. I need to cut that. I keep on forgetting. Alrighty, so now they're getting the sun. Over here, the mint seem to be doing fine. Just the strawberry mint seems to be taking longer to get big, but I wasn't really expecting it to come back, so for me this is a win already. This is the sweet pear. I'm glad that came back. It smells delicious. And then the chocolate one, the chocolate mint is always very reliable, always comes back. Okay, I don't see any aphids on this guy, but it was infested a few days ago. Maybe the cold killed him. All right, we're gonna cover these pansies. They should get partial shade here, so they should be doing better. And I do see little ones growing, so hopefully we'll get some. And then I see some delphinum, or well, actually this is larkspur. They're very similar, but I do see some growing, so I'm excited about that. As long as I have a couple of plants so I can actually see the variety, I'm good. Alrighty, we'll keep that closed. And then here I have a rose that needed to go outside, and we're gonna transplant that soon. Alright, I'm gonna leave the frost blanket because these guys, well, dahlias don't really like when it's cold. Alright, they seem to be doing fine. These are 2 dahlias that I started from a cutting. Someone was asking me online if I was going to sell tubers. I said no, because I'm such a small production that I don't really, and sometimes my tubers don't overwinter well. But I decided to grow these extra 2 from cuttings, and if I have extra tubers, that way I can send them maybe before winter, and that way I don't have to worry about overwintering. The rose seems okay considering, and the apple trees are doing good too. My lilac is growing. I don't know if it's the variety I bought, but I guess we'll have to wait until it blooms eventually. Whoa. I was hesitant to pick that tarp, that frost blanket, because it's just falling apart, so picking it up is just a mess. But I'm gonna try to see if I can bring a trash bag and just kind of scoop it in, because I don't like it. It looks like I'm not taking care of the garden. And I know usually it looks like this in spring, but by summer, when all the beautiful blooms are gonna be all over the place, I don't want this here. I don't like the mess. The rhubarb seems to be doing fine. This one, the lighter green, was looking a little sad before I cut the stems off, meaning the ones that had the blooms. As soon as I cut the bloom stems, it recovered. It even enjoyed, I guess, a little bit of the cold weather. And of course I had to water them, but I guess most of the energy was going into the blooms. So if you're not growing blooms for whatever reason, remove them, because then you're not going to have energy on the stems. And that's where the good stuff is. So we have some strawberries growing here in the ground that extended from last year because the pot was here. So there's one here and there's another here. We need to transplant them because I keep on stepping on this one, and that's not fun. It's food. We also need to be weeding because this is not a good plant. Got all over the place. It's the time to be weeding before all the good plants come in. And now the moment of truth, we're gonna go to the sunflower terrace. I'm afraid, but they need the sun, they need the warmth. They've been covered for 3 days because of the frosty temperatures and the snow and the excess rain, and I had just transplanted things. So we're gonna go see if everything is looking well. And even if it rains later, as long as it's not hail, it should be fine. I can always run out and put the plastic tarp again to protect them, or at least a frost blanket that is more cushiony. I need to close these gates because we have dogs and one of them loves eating plants. And unfortunately, some of these might be poisonous for them. Some even food that we enjoy can be toxic for them, like chocolates. So I know tulips are toxic for dogs. Dahlias are toxic for dogs. Lily pollen is toxic for cats. We have cats too. So it's always, if you have dogs and cats, it's important for you to check if they're safe around your plants. Otherwise, you need to protect your pets and your plants too, because might not be toxic, but then you lost all your crop to hungry, playful puppies. All right. So this is how it looks now. As you can see, it's very covered, very protected. I see some puddles of water. I need to remove that. Let's uncover this show and see where we're at. Well, I removed the tarps and first blankets. Everything at first glance seems to be doing great. The sunflowers don't look damaged at all whatsoever. They look like they've been growing very, very nicely. And I'm gonna check if the cosmos have popped up. I think a little of my concern was the snapdragons because they were a little smushed in there. And I had to cover them because of the hail and heavy snow. I knew that they were gonna break. I know they like branching anyways if they're damaged, but I don't really want them to get very damaged. So I covered them, but come on, little wormy, go find your home, dig yourself a hole. The zinnias haven't really popped up, but that's okay. I literally just planted them. But we do have some very, very old seed of sunflowers coming up right here. So I'm assuming this might be the velvet queen. They just slid a little. It just slid a little because of the watering. And I think those are autumn beauty. And so that's great. Those are at least from 2013. And I just planted them because I wanted to make sure. And oh my God. Again, probably the squirrel. Look, it dug out my fava bean. And here I thought maybe it was gonna start growing, and now the squirrel, I'm gonna have to put some chicken wire there or something just to stop encouraging it. It seems like it was digging in here too, but those are rhizomes. Alright, so I should have some Ami growing in here. It's not coming up yet, that's fine. I do have to keep on weeding, unless this is the Dara, but I don't think so. I think this is grass. It seems either this is a dwarf sunflower that I planted here called Double Dante, or yeah, that's probably what it is. I don't think the asters are gonna come up yet. They need warmth and sun. And the hyssop wasn't damaged, so that's fantastic. And the little oregano is also growing in there. Let's hope that with the light he'll just grow stronger. The calendula hasn't come up yet, which is fine. To my surprise, the delphinum might be coming up. I'm not sure. At least this one here. Because it was covered, they do like a little darkness. We'll see what is plant and what is weed, and then I'll just remove that. The sage is doing good too, and the Dusty Miller is doing good too. I'm excited about that. The snapdragons seem okay, which I'm excited about. Now all they need is a little sun to rise up, and I'll be fine. I don't know if there's any cosmos coming up yet. I do see some little seedlings coming up, but I don't know if those are weeds. This is actually my first time planting cosmos, so I'll have to wait just to make sure it is what it's supposed to be. I mean, these look, actually these are the Belt of Ireland, so they survived. Hopefully they'll do well now that the sun is gonna be giving them some light. They are doing good. They didn't get damaged by the frost blanket or the tarp. That's fantastic. And we have some sunflowers that either came to this side because of the watering, or they were wild. Well, not wild, the ones that the blue jays planted here. So the sunflowers are doing okay. They don't seem to be growing consistently, but that's okay. Oh, I do see damage of one. This one seems to have gotten damaged. It's a pity. That's a moonwalker, but I have more, so hopefully I'll have enough to kind of compensate. I think I might need to water here. It feels pretty humid down there, but it's gonna rain, so probably just let it rain. Yeah, oh, too bad. And I guess that's it. Most of the varieties have bloomed, some earlier than others. I'm happy. I'm just gonna sit here for a little bit and enjoy the seedlings and the work. Maybe I should have planted more filler. I mean, there's a lot of the basil's gonna go here, the amaranth is gonna go there, but I'm gonna have amaranth left over. Dun dun dun. I think I'll put it behind the fence. Something we have discussed is we have this barrier, we have all this space here. There's like a corner that is empty. Well, empty of good stuff. It has a bunch of weeds that we need to cut off. Apparently that one is very bad, so we need to get in here and remove it from the root, and then weed here very well, because I'm so excited. I just acquired 6 Japanese flowering quince. It's a variety called Toyonoshiki, I think. Name is in the captions. And I'm very excited because it's a very nice pink with yellow with a little peachy color, and I think those would look very good as a filler with tulips next year. Well, I brought the peppers out. I did get one of them damaged, unfortunately, but we'll try again next year if it doesn't. Well, what happens with peppers is sometimes you can prune them and then it'll branch out. So it broke. Hopefully it'll recover and I'll have enough time to grow. With tomatoes, not so much. So here are tomatillos. They look kind of skimpy and leggy, but that's okay. We can always plant them a little lower so they'll root out better, and then obviously they have to be staked. But yeah, so these are the tomatillos that we started probably a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And so the peppers have been, I think we started them at the end of February. That's why they're tall. And we pruned them once. We were gonna do it a second time, but decided not to. And these guys started growing like monsters. Look at that. The tomatoes is another story. We started these guys on the 26th of April because the tomatoes that we had started at the beginning of, actually at the end of March, got too leggy. And because we knew we were gonna have some late frosty nights and some snow showers, we decided to start them again because we weren't gonna be able to transplant. And surely these guys are looking great. They're long enough. They can wait another week indoors and they'll be fine. And I guess we're gonna start tomatoes now at the end of April, just to be safe, because we don't transplant anything until June 1st, so they have at least a month. This is about a month of growth, a little bit over a month, so it's more than enough of what we need for the season, because otherwise you end up with this. And our eggplants are also getting some sun right now. They're doing great. They're way taller than they were last year. At least now we have our timing right and the way to start these guys with the peppers, and that's what worked for us last year, so we keep on doing this. The only difference is last year the plants weren't this tall. This year they look fantastic. I think that's the difference between adding a little bit of azos and mycos to your seedlings, and then do not fertilize. There's also a couple of cherry tomatoes we got at the store. Those were seedlings that were already started, done by us. And a rosemary that is doing great so far. This is just to compensate for the one that we overwintered and died. And then I'm excited about the marigolds, because the first year I planted marigolds or started them from seed, I was 0 successful. And I did have some flowers growing, but it was so bad I was embarrassed. I started these for my mother-in-law, and they seem to be doing great. So if you don't have like a greenhouse or trays, just one of these salad containers and make holes here and make sure it's moist but not super damped. You can put drainage holes too before putting dirt, and have your seedlings grow. When they're big enough, just transplant them. When it's really hot and you're bringing them out, just make sure that they vent, keep an eye on them, and that they don't dry out, because if they dry out, all your effort is gone. And remember, with seedlings, it's a timing thing. So you get it wrong, you might not be able to start them again. I think these guys are even starting to fruit. How about that? I'm excited. I love eggplant. And these are all the peppers for the season that we're gonna transplant. There might be a couple of extra ones just in case. We can always give them to a neighbor. But yeah, these are our peppers. As you can see, many, if not all of them, are very long. I think only the bushy ones, like the habaneros, are shorter. But overall, they're very tall. And we could have pruned them again, but we didn't want to do that. So there was even one of the jalapenos, which is a Zapotec, already had fruit, which I took off and ate. But yeah, so today we're going to transplant. It's a nice cloudy day, so we're not going to be burning outside while we're doing this. And you already know what we add to the soil. Same amendments as always, and this time we have to make sure we add the sulfur when we transfer or transplant the peppers, and we'll be up ready to go with the season for peppers. Alright, so now that we cleared all the weeds, we did separate the pots quite a bit so that we can get in there and not just plant but also weed throughout the season. As you can see, we left the passage right there so we can walk through there, not just to harvest but also to remove weeds. We moved the garlic to that side so it's easier for us to keep an eye on it, and when we're harvesting we're not getting in the way of anything else. All of this is also going to be peppers, and over here we put the berries. Right now there's raspberries, there's the honeyberries right there, and we will bring the yasta berry in that corner and probably plant the blackberries and put them on this side as well. We have sorted all the pepper plants, and now we just have to place each cup on top of the pot that we want to plant them in, and then just start transplanting. Every couple of years we sprinkle some of the sulfur on top of the pepper pots. The Dr. Earth sells it, and that's where you can get it. We can put a link to the description or the information so that you're aware where to get it. And every other year that's what we do, but we plant peppers every year. And the good thing is, before you plant any plants, amend your soil, add the goodies, fertilize once a month at least, just so that all those nutrients are taken by your plant and your fruit can reflect it. So some people don't like fertilizing. Well, that's your choice, but we highly recommend it, because it's like with us people, we need to get our nutrients, not just eat junk food all the time, right? So with that being said, let's get planting. Now that we have decided where what variety is gonna go, we did leave these two for the honeyberries, because the honeyberries are getting too root bound per se in that 2-gallon pot each one. It's time to transplant. These are 3-gallon each, and they should be fine there until we have to transplant again later on. And here are the honeyberries, and they're already producing some fruit. Yay! And we're done. It didn't take that long with that ball planter that we used to remove the area of the soil, and we just plop the seedling in. It's just a very efficient way to do this in a larger scale per se than a couple of pepper plants. And we just added fertilizer, the sulfur, water it in, a little bit of rock dust, and that's it. All the plants that are there need to go there. That's where the tulips are gonna be, and some other perennials that I need to plant. So the point being is that I need to clear out this section so that I can pass the peonies and other plants I have here, because today I need to start planting dahlias. I'm already late, so I won't have space to do this later. I need to do it today, and then hopefully get to some of the dahlias, at least half of them, and then hopefully in the evening when it's cooler I can plant some tomatoes, because we're also behind with that. Unfortunately, we still had very close to freezing temperatures last night, but so far it's supposed to be the last night that it's close to freezing, so danger of frost, hopefully it's gone. And the last snow was last weekend. We really couldn't risk it, so point being, you know, we had to wait until now so that the tomatoes didn't get damaged, nor the peppers. Peppers are planted, potatoes are growing, and all we need to plant now is the rest of the basil, tomatoes, eggplants, and dahlias. I think that's it. I think I'm just gonna sit here, enjoy the garden a little bit. But yeah, I really like it here, and I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss the quiet, even though it's a little noisy because the main road, it's not that close, it's like 3 blocks away, but we live in a canyon, so the sound bounces. So Sundays gets very noisy with motorcycles and stuff, and the big trucks during the week, so you can hear the cars in the background, and that's not that close. It's kind of like far, like over there, somewhere there. But it sound bounces, so you can hear it, and it gets a little noisy sometimes, but sometimes it's nice, and you can see the hawks and all types of birds. It's really whimsical to be here, you know, and all these types of, you know, pollinators that maybe wouldn't be in the city. Because one thing is, if you're growing organically like we do, using permaculture, all those sustainable regenerative agriculture and all that stuff, well, you get to see a lot of bees and wasps and parasitic wasps and all these little bugs that help you control the pest. But just because you're not using anything bad doesn't mean your neighbor is not. You know, your neighbor could be using all the bad stuff and killing a bunch of it. So I'm sure in the city it's harder to see some of the bugs we see here. I mean, come on, last year I had a hoverfly landing in my hand, and just, you know, enjoying that I had some sap from the tomatoes in my fingers, and he was really enjoying that. And that's very hard to see, I guess, in the city. And I mean, we used to have hoverflies in California because we had so many plants and we didn't use anything chemical. We did use neem or BT sometimes for certain things, but very controlled, and then washed off after we were done. But there was so much abundance, the pollinators, you know, they minded their own business and they were fine. So here we see the same thing with the abundant comfrey, which is growing there, and we need to kind of chop in half or remove or something. It's getting crazy. We know the snake loves it, which is great for the snake and vole control. Not for me so much because it's kind of in the way of the door. We didn't think about it when we put it there first. When we had it in California, it didn't grow that big. Here it becomes a monster. It blocks the sun for the other plants and that are on this side, and it kind of gets in the way when we're getting into the terrace. So sometimes you have to be careful when you're going in there so that you're not stepping on the snake that likes to go through. And you know, that snake likes to get a little comfortable because I go in there, mind my own business, I try to ignore it. I don't like snakes, but we need them in the garden. We have bowls, and we've seen the difference ever since we have more space for the snake to wander around. It's been 2 seasons now, and there's less of an issue with the bowls. So either it eats it or the bowls just run off and don't come over. So yeah, with that, last year the snake got too comfortable and started heading towards my way, and obviously I jumped, and unfortunately I landed on the snake, which made it jump too. So it was crazy, it was horrible. I felt bad for the snake because I stepped on it when I was trying to jump away because it just kept on coming forward, and I was afraid of getting bit. Fortunately I didn't get bit, but yeah, it was a horrible experience because I do not like snakes. My nose bleeds. Just, it's a psychological thing. And so I guess I'm a little like Indiana Jones in that way. I hate snakes, but I appreciate what they do for the garden. And my neighbor, one of our neighbors, she has a very heavy vole situation. So we gave her some comfrey to encourage the garden snakes to hide in there as well. And hopefully that'll work for her too. What else? Oh, plus she shared that one of her friends makes a balm from comfrey for her skin. I don't really know about that, and I don't know if that's this particular comfrey. If you guys know, let us know through our Instagram or Facebook. That we'd love to know. That way we have an extra use for the comfrey. Right now we're just using it for the snake and for the pollinators, because once it flowers, there's hummingbirds and all type of bumblebees and bees and all that. They love it, but we also use it as a fertilizer. I don't buy fertilizer for my dahlias and other flowers during the season. I just ferment the comfrey leaves, and it smells horrible, horrible, horrible. But what I do is I ferment it and then I dilute the concentrate. I leave it for a few hours and then dilute it some more, watering it down. Why? Because it smells so bad. I really don't want the neighbors to get annoyed. I use plastic long gloves when handling it because the smell doesn't come off your skin that easily. So unless you want to be eating something and then having to smell your hands as you get your hands close to your face, I suggest use plastic gloves if you're handling comfrey fertilizer made by yourself. And we use buckets that are just designated for the comfrey ferment, because otherwise, like I said, they smell. Anything you use with a comfrey ferment for fertilizer, it's gonna stink as the comfrey fertilizer. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, so it thrives here. It does wonderful. It loves the sun, it loves the temperature, it overwinters. It just dies back in the winter. We don't do really anything to it. Sometimes we just chop it down a little, and then, you know, last year we didn't do that, and there's long stems there that are dead, and then just the green growth that is coming up is the new comfrey. And once you remove it, it's gonna take you a couple of seasons to really get it out, because there's roots, they go really deep and then they just keep on coming out. Just be mindful where you put the comfrey. It might be there for a very long time, so don't put it where it's gonna be in your way or your plant's way. You can put it in a place where it's not gonna be disrupting anything, and if it goes crazy, you'll be fine. And you can watch all the pollinators too, so, or really chop it down during the season to make fertilizer. But yeah, put it away or far away when you're doing your fertilizer, because it stinks horribly and you're not gonna really like it. And if the wind blows hard where you are at, that's gonna smell far away. So yeah, right now we are preparing to transplant tomatoes, hopefully within the next week. And the garlic seems to be doing fine. The allium seems to be doing fine. I don't see any cilantro coming up yet. The German chamomile is doing fine in the pot. I haven't seen the one that grows in the ground yet, but at least we have some, and it's about to bloom, so that's interesting. And the echinacea is doing beautifully there, and the green onions, and there's some yarrow, a big patch of yarrow. There's even like a borage coming, which I'm surprised. I just recently heard that they can reseed themselves and come up in our zone. They apparently do okay with the cold. It was a very cold but dry winter, and so I guess they like it. And there's a patch. I mean, there were so many seeds there that you would think that you would have more, but that's so far what it's grown. It's just a little patch, and that's it, I think. We have some onions, alum, some herbs growing in there, and the bloody sorrel, or bloody burdock, that's also called sorrel. There's not a lot of things blooming in the garden right now. However, this is where I planted dahlias, but it's only been a week and a half, so there's not much in there. So, well, strawberries are, but it's not what I'm looking for. Right now here in the cool flower kennel, I am looking for this guy. There's other peonies that are also starting to bud, but they're not there yet. They're too hard. So we're gonna cut this guy so that the plant can gather more energy and I could take a nice picture of it. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna grab my clippers, and I'm not gonna go super down because I want to leave as much foliage as possible in this peony so that it gathers energy to get more blooms next year. I do see that there's another bud here that is forming. Last year you only have one, so I'm gonna cut it right here. Pew, pew, pew. There. That way I have enough of a flower, but still, you know, enough foliage in the plant, so I don't miss out on the blooms next year. Have you seen the potatoes? My gosh, they look wonderful. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. It always helps with the channel so that we can add more content and share with you guys what we're doing in the garden. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. That helps you keep up to date with what we're doing. And if you have any questions, don't forget to submit them at our Instagram account or Facebook. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. Until next time, remember, if you're growing with us, we're growing together. You know what? This is very tricky to get in here. And my dogs leave treats. And I have seed pods. Ooh, I got the camera wet. I got the other camera wet. During the pandemic, it's always the weekend.
Damn it, Blair. Just kidding.
It's not Blair. So every couple of years, we just sprinkle some sulfur on top of the pepper plants. Bleh. Every couple of years, we sprinkle some sulfur on top of the pepper pots. I know, it's... Do 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 do. Ow. So I'm gonna grab my scissors, clippers. So I'm gonna grab my